Wow, you guys have really outdone yourselves this time. Articles, blog posts, even presentation slides. It's like a software engineering knowledge explosion.
It is pretty impressive. Covers a ton of ground, too. Everything from, like, the nitty-gritty of coding to, building a successful career as a software engineer. It's not just about the tech stuff.
Right, it's about the whole journey. So that's what we're going to do today. We're diving deep into all this material, pulling out the golden nuggets, the things that'll make the biggest difference for software engineers.
Love it. A deep dive, perfect way to put it. Get up to speed fast on what really matters in software engineering. And speaking of making a difference, one of these articles highlighted this big shift from the old waterfall method to Agile development. There was even a case study, a team that switched to Agile. They saw a 30% reduction in their time to market, which is huge.
30%. Okay, you've got my attention. But I always thought Agile requires more upfront planning. So how do you balance that need for speed with, building a solid foundation?
Well, that's the thing about Agile. It's not about throwing planning out the window. It's about having just enough structure to get started, then, constantly adapting based on feedback, on changing needs.
So you're always getting feedback and making adjustments as you go, and ultimately that leads to a better final product and in this case a much faster delivery time.
Exactly. And this actually ties into another key takeaway from your sources, the power of small pull requests. Think of it this way. You're building a huge Lego masterpiece. Would you rather try to assemble all 1,000 pieces at once or focus on smaller, more manageable sections?
Oh, definitely the smaller sections. Way less chance of making a giant mess you can't fix.
Exactly. Smaller pull requests make it so much easier to review code, catch errors early, integrate changes without, running into those massive merge conflicts that can just bring a project to a screeching halt.
So it's not just about speed, it's about quality and maintainability as well. Makes sense. Now, one article really hammered home the importance of rebasing frequently with the main branch when using Git. Why is that such a big deal?
Okay, imagine you're working on a feature, right? For weeks, you're completely isolated from the main code base. Then, when you finally try to merge your changes, it's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. Rebasing frequently makes sure that your changes are integrated gradually, reduces the risk of conflicts, makes it way easier to track, how the code is evolving.
Ah, so it's like keeping your branch in sync with the main development flow instead of just going off on your own solo mission.
Exactly. And there's this super helpful command mentioned in one of the sources, Git Reflog. It's like a safety net for Git users.
Oh yeah, Git Reflog, I've heard of it, but I've always been a little afraid to use it, to be honest. What's so special about it?
It lets you undo mistakes, even those you thought were gone forever. Accidentally deleted a commit, no problem. Git Reflog can bring it back from the dead. But as with any powerful tool, you got to use it responsibly, especially when you're working on a team.
Yeah, I can see how rewriting history could cause some major headaches if you're not careful. Speaking of powerful tools, let's talk about something that's totally revolutionized software development. Docker, your development superpower, one of the articles called it.
And I think that's a pretty accurate description. Docker, it lets you package your whole application environment, the code, the dependencies, everything, into a portable container. No more, it works on my machine excuses.
So it's like you're shipping the entire factory, not just the finished product. I get it. No more inconsistencies that can derail a project.
Right. Huge time to saver. Makes deployment so much smoother. We're talking zero downtime deployments, which is amazing for businesses and for users.
Zero downtime. That's incredible. And one of the sources talked about this concept of multi-stage builds, which can drastically shrink the size of your Docker images. There was this Golang example. They took a 294 megabit image and they shrunk it down to just the size of the executable.
Efficiency is key. Multi-stage builds, they let you get rid of all the unnecessary files during the build process. Smaller images, faster deployments.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, before we move on, I'd love to get a handle on some of those essential Docker commands. The sources mention Docker exec and Docker logs as being super useful.
Oh, absolutely. Docker exec, it lets you access a running container. Basically, you get a command line inside the container itself. Incredibly useful for debugging, troubleshooting. And then there's Docker logs, which lets you see the logs that are generated by your application, the one running inside the container. It's a lifesaver when things go wrong.
So Docker exec for going inside a container and Docker logs for peeking into what's happening. Got it. Those seem like absolute must-haves for anyone working with Docker.
For sure. Now let's switch gears a bit. Talk about Node.js. It's taken JavaScript, beyond the browser into the world of server-side development. And according to one of the sources, it's become insanely popular.
Yeah, there was this case study where a company moved their microservices over to Node.js. They saw their response times drop significantly. What makes Node.js so fast?
Well, one of the key factors is its non-blocking I/O model and the event loop. It's designed to handle a lot of concurrent requests really efficiently which makes it perfect for high-performance applications.
Okay, so it can handle a lot of traffic without like getting bogged down. Cool. But what about this concept of promises in Node.js? One article mentioned functions like promise.race, promise.all, and promise.any. I have to admit, those sound a bit intimidating.
They're actually really powerful tools for managing asynchronous operations. Okay, think of it like this. You're ordering a pizza, but you also need to send an email and do the dishes. With promises, you can do all these things at the same time and then deal with the results as they're ready rather than waiting for each task to finish one after the other.
So it's like a multitasking master. Make sure your application isn't held back by, slow operations.
Exactly. And those functions you mentioned, promise.race, promise.all, and promise.any, they give you different ways to control these concurrent operations, give you fine-grained control over how your application behaves.
That's a great way to explain it. So it's all about building applications that are like responsive and efficient, which is, of course, crucial for a great user experience.
Precisely. And speaking of JavaScript runtimes, there are a couple of newer ones worth mentioning that came up in your research, Deno and Bun.
Yes. Deno, especially, seems to be getting a lot of buzz. Are they serious contenders to Node.js?
Well, it's still early days, but definitely worth keeping an eye on. Deno, it was actually created by the original developer of Node.js. It addresses some of the security concerns and design choices that have been raised about Node.js over the years. And then Bun, it boasts some really impressive performance improvements. It'd be interesting to see how they evolve, whether they gain wider adoption.
A little healthy competition is always a good thing, right? Keeps everyone on their toes. Now, let's move on to the foundation of countless software applications, databases.
Ah, the unsung heroes. And one of your sources had this intriguing message. Don't just settle for basic SQL queries. Unlock SQL's hidden superpowers.
Hidden superpowers. Okay, I'm all ears. What kind of powers are we talking about?
SQL is so powerful for manipulating and analyzing data. You can do calculations, you can group data, manipulate strings, even sort by custom formulas, all within SQL itself. This could be way more efficient than doing it in your application code.
So it's about leveraging the power of the database itself rather than relying on external code. That's interesting.
Exactly. And one article highlighted a really convenient feature in Postgres on delete cascade.
I'm not familiar with that one. What does it do?
Okay, think of it as like automatic data cleanup. Let's say you have an author table and a quotes table. When you delete an author, you probably also want to delete all their associated quotes, right? On delete cascade takes care of that automatically. So you don't have to write any extra code to manage those relationships.
Ah, so it's like a domino effect, but in a good way. Less code to write, less chance of errors, cleaner data. I like it.
Simplicity and efficiency, always good things in software development. Now let's talk about a couple of tools that can really supercharge database performance. Redis and Elasticsearch.
Redis caching came up a lot in my reading. One source said it can dramatically improve response times and consistency. I get that caching is about storing frequently accessed data, but how does that actually work in practice?
Imagine you have a website that displays quotes. Every time a user visits the page, your application has to go to the database, get those quotes. With Redis caching, you store those quotes in memory. So the next time someone requests them, your application can fetch them from the cache almost instantly.
So it's like a shortcut to the data you need most often. Makes sense. And what about Elasticsearch? What makes it so special?
Elasticsearch is a really powerful search engine. It's great at handling huge amounts of data, complex queries. It's especially well suited for like e-commerce applications where it can power faceted search.
Ah, so Elasticsearch is what's behind those super smooth filtering options on e-commerce sites. I never knew. This is all incredibly insightful. It's amazing how all these different technologies and concepts work together to create the software we use every day.
It is pretty remarkable how interconnected everything is. And it speaks to the breadth of knowledge you need to be a successful software engineer.
Absolutely. And on that note, let's switch gears. Talk about leveling up your software engineering career. These sources are packed with advice on everything from building a standout portfolio to acing those dreaded take-home coding challenges.
It's a natural progression, right? From building better software to building a better career. And one of the most impactful things you can do is start a technical blog.
A blog. But isn't that just for like sharing opinions and personal stories?
It can be. But for software engineers, a blog can be an incredibly powerful tool. For showcasing your skills, demonstrating your passion, building a personal brand, it's like a living portfolio.
Okay, so it's about like demonstrating your expertise and sharing your love for the craft. But how do you make your blog stand out? There are so many out there.
Choose topics that are relevant. Write high-quality content. And be consistent. The more you write, the better you get. And the more your audience grows. And don't be afraid to promote your work. Share it on social media, engage with other bloggers, participate in online communities.
So it's not just about writing, it's about building a presence, being part of the conversation.
Exactly. Now, another crucial piece of career advancement is mastering the art of the take-home coding challenge.
Ah, yes, those can be so intimidating. One article mentioned that a lot of people make the mistake of trying to be too clever, like they implement all these fancy features that weren't even asked for.
It's a common trap. The key is to approach these challenges strategically. Read the instructions really carefully. Write clean, readable code. Focus on delivering a working solution. Don't get bogged down trying to impress with, unnecessary bells and whistles.
Solid advice. It's about showing that you can solve problems and deliver results, not about showing off your knowledge of obscure algorithms.
Precisely. Now, once you've aced that coding challenge, you need a resume that gets noticed.
There was this great article, had a resume template that's helped over 30 people land their first tech jobs. What makes a tech resume stand out?
Tailoring it to the specific role. Highlighting your relevant experience. Using keywords strategically. Think like a recruiter. What are they looking for? What skills and experience are most relevant to the job? Make sure your resume reflects those things.
So it's about presenting your qualifications in a way that's like clear, concise, and aligned with what the employer needs. Now, beyond the technical skills, the polished resume, there's another key ingredient for career success: networking.
You're absolutely right. Networking is essential. And it's about more than just like collecting business card at events. It's about building genuine connections, learning from other people, finding opportunities to collaborate.
I've always been a bit hesitant about networking, to be honest. It just feels, I don't know, forced, awkward.
The key is to be authentic, to be genuinely interested in other people. Go to meetups, conferences, participate in online communities. Don't be afraid to reach out to people you admire. Ask questions, share your experiences, find ways to contribute.
So it's about building relationships, being part of the conversation. That makes it feel less transactional.
Exactly. And speaking of connection, let's talk about the importance of mentorship.
One of the articles really emphasized the value of both being a mentor and finding mentors. I can definitely see the benefits of having someone more experienced to guide you. But what about being a mentor? What's in it for the mentor?
Mentorship can be incredibly rewarding. It's a chance to share your knowledge, your experience, help someone navigate their own career journey, make a real difference in someone's life. Plus, it helps you solidify your own understanding of the concepts you're teaching.
So it's like a two-way street. Both the mentor and the mentee benefit from the relationship.
Exactly. Now, beyond the core skills and the career advice, I've got this bonus round of topics in the sources. Stuff like remote work, productivity, even social media detox. It's like the human side of software engineering.
Right. It's acknowledging that it's not just about the code. It's about the people who write it and the lives they lead.
For sure, and with so many people working remotely these days, one article really dug into the strategies for making it work. Setting clear boundaries, establishing routines, over-communicating with your colleagues, using the right tools for collaboration, all these things are crucial for, thriving in a remote environment.
It's about finding that balance, right, between work and life, creating a healthy and sustainable way to work.
Exactly. And one article even suggested tracking your time. To uncover those hidden productivity killers, they even mentioned a tool called Rescue Time that automatically tracks how you spend your time on your computer.
Oh, wow. Time tracking can be really revealing. It's crazy how much time we waste on distractions without even realizing it.
Totally. By, becoming aware of those patterns, we can make better choices about how we spend our time, become more productive.
So it's about being mindful of how we spend our time and energy, both at work and in our personal lives. And then there's the suggestion of a social media detox. For a clearer mind, I have to admit, I'm pretty addicted to my phone.
Well, the article suggested taking a gradual approach. Start by turning off notifications, then progress to, limiting posting, and eventually, only accessing social media through a browser. The idea is to break that cycle of constantly checking and scrolling.
That sounds like a challenge, but I can definitely see the appeal. Less distraction, more focus, maybe even more time for things that actually matter.
It's about reclaiming your attention, being more intentional about how you engage with technology.
This is all incredibly insightful. It's amazing how much ground we've covered already, from writing cleaner code and mastering powerful tools to building a successful career and even managing our time effectively. It's all connected.
It really is remarkable how interconnected all these concepts are. And it speaks to, the breadth of knowledge you need to be a successful software engineer. It's not just about coding. It's about the whole package.
Well said. But I have a feeling we've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore in this world of software engineering.
Absolutely. Stay tuned for part 2 of our deep dive. We'll be going even deeper into the world of software engineering, from building resilient systems to choosing the right architecture and navigating that ever-evolving technology landscape. It's going to be a wild ride. All right, welcome back to our deep dive.
So, picking up where we left off, I'm really fascinated by this whole concept of software resilience. It came up in a bunch of the articles. One even described it as like building systems that can weather the storm.
Yeah, it's about designing systems that can handle those unexpected events, failures. And not just avoid them, but, recover gracefully, even learn from them.
So, it's not just about being tough, it's about being adaptable.
Exactly. One source used this great analogy, like a martial artist. When they get hit, they don't, just crumble. They absorb the blow, use that energy to their advantage. Resilient systems, they kind of do the same thing.
That's such a cool analogy. So, how do we actually like bake this resilience into our software? What are the concrete steps we can take?
Well, the sources highlighted a few key strategies. Redundancy is a big one, having backup systems in place. So if one component fails, another one can seamlessly take over. It's like having a spare tire in your car. Hopefully you never need it, but it's there just in case.
Right. So, redundancy is about anticipating those potential points of failure and having a plan B. What else?
Another important concept is circuit breakers. They prevent these cascading failures by, like, isolating problematic components. Think of it like the circuit breaker in your house. If there's a power surge, the breaker trips, prevents damage to the whole system.
So, circuit breakers are like safety valves that contain the damage, prevent a small problem from becoming a total meltdown.
Precisely. And then, of course, there's monitoring and logging. One article even said, logs are a software engineer's best friend. They give you that detailed record of what's going on in your system. You can, like, trace the steps that led to a failure, identify patterns, prevent similar issues from happening again.
It's like having a black box recorder for your software. Super valuable, especially when things go wrong.
Oh, absolutely. It can save you hours of frustration trying to hunt down that pesky bug. Now, let's switch gears a bit. Talk about choosing the right architecture, the right technology for the job. One source really emphasized the importance of, like, choosing the right layer for your solution, especially when it comes to database logic versus application code logic.
Yeah, I've always struggled with that decision. Where do you draw the line? When does it make sense to put logic in the database, and when should it be in the application code?
It's a classic debate, and there's no easy answer. It depends on a lot of factors, performance requirements, data integrity, the complexity of the logic. Sometimes it's just more efficient to use the database. Other times it makes more sense to keep it in the application.
So it's about carefully weighing the trade-offs and finding the best fit for each situation.
Exactly. And that same article also talked about the different layers within the application code itself, controllers, services, repositories.
Okay, break that down for me. What's the role of each layer, and why is it important to have this separation of concerns?
All right, imagine a well-organized kitchen. Controllers are like the head chef. They take the orders from the diners, the users, and direct the other cooks. Services are the sous chefs. They're responsible for preparing the dishes, the business logic, and repositories are the pantry. They provide access to all the ingredients, the data.
Ah, so it's about breaking down the complexity into manageable pieces. Each layer has its own specific responsibility.
Precisely. This modular approach makes the code more organized, easier to maintain, easier to test. You can test each layer independently. Make sure each piece works before you put it all together.
Makes sense. Now, beyond the architecture itself, there's the question of technology choices. Languages, frameworks, databases, so many options. One source had this intriguing piece of advice. Choose boring technology. Boring technology. But doesn't that, like, stifle innovation? I love exploring the latest and greatest.
I get it, the shiny new toy syndrome. But in software engineering, boring can actually be a really good thing. It means choosing technologies that are, well-established and well-documented, technologies that have a proven track record.
So it's about reliability and stability over the latest hype. But wouldn't that, like, limit your options, potentially slow down development?
Not necessarily. Boring technologies, they're less likely to throw you curveballs. And it's easier to find developers who are already familiar with them. This can save you so much time and headaches down the line. Allows you to focus on building a solid product.
That's a good point. It's about using the right tool for the job. Sometimes the best tool is the one that's been around the block a few times.
For sure. Now, no matter how well architected your system is, how carefully you choose your tech stack, things will inevitably go wrong at some point. It's just the nature of software.
So true. And that's why it's so important to have systems in place to, like, measure, learn, and adapt. One article really stressed the importance of monitoring and observability.
Right. It's not just about having, dashboards with a bunch of pretty graphs.
So what is it about?
It's about having the tools and processes in place that give you that real-time visibility into your application's performance, its behavior. You need to be able to track key metrics like response times, error rates, resource consumption.
So it's like a health monitor for your application, constantly checking its vital signs, letting you know if something's off.
Exactly. And that visibility allows you to identify bottlenecks, diagnose issues quickly, make smart decisions about how to improve your system. It's about being proactive, not reactive.
Makes sense. Okay, let's shift gears again, talk about the human side of software engineering. One recurring theme in these sources is the importance of communication and collaboration.
Yeah, software development, it's rarely a solo effort. It's a team sport, and good communication is crucial.
And it's not just about the technical stuff like writing clear code, good documentation. It's also about, interpersonal communication, being able to clearly explain your ideas, listen to others, work together effectively.
Absolutely. One article even highlighted the value of pair programming as a way to enhance communication, share knowledge, improve code quality.
I've heard of pair programming, but never actually tried it. Sounds kind of intimidating, if I'm being honest. Two people, same screen, writing code together. Doesn't that get chaotic?
It could take some getting used to, but when it's done well, pair programming is incredibly effective. It's like having a constant code review. You catch errors early, make sure the code is well designed, maintainable.
So it's more than just writing code. It's about learning from each other, brainstorming ideas, building a shared understanding.
Exactly. And that shared understanding leads to better code, faster development, a more enjoyable work experience for everyone involved.
Now, speaking of enjoyment, one article talked about the importance of intrinsic motivation, finding that, joy and purpose in the work itself.
Passion is a powerful motivator. When you're genuinely interested in what you're doing, you believe in its value, you're going to be more engaged, more creative, ultimately more successful.
It's about finding that spark, that thing that gets you fired up. But let's be real, not every task in software development is going to be intrinsically motivating. There's going to be some grunt work involved.
Oh, for sure. But even when you're faced with those, tedious or challenging tasks, it's important to stay positive, look for opportunities to learn and grow.
One article had this kind of blunt piece of advice: don't be a rock star developer. What did they mean by that?
They were warning against that ego-driven pursuit of individual glory. It's about recognizing that, software development, it's a team effort. The success of the team is way more important than any individual accolades.
So it's about being a team player, not a lone wolf. Got it.
Exactly. Humility, collaboration, a focus on the collective good, these are essential qualities for any software engineer.
That's a great message. We're all in this together. The best results come from working together effectively. Now let's shift gears, talk about a topic that's near and dear to both of our hearts: the art of software development blogging.
Ah, yes. Sharing our knowledge, our experiences, our love for all things code with the world.
And, these sources, they had a ton of great advice on how to be it effectively. One article emphasized choosing, relevant and engaging topics, things that resonate with your audience. Like, what are you passionate about? What challenges have you faced? What lessons have you learned? Those are all great starting points for blog posts.
Absolutely. Share your passion in a way that's informative, engaging for others.
Right. And another article talked about the importance of consistency. Regularly publishing high-quality content is key to building that loyal readership. It's like anything else, consistency breeds results.
It does. The more you write, the better you get, the more your audience grows. But I know writing consistently can be a challenge, especially when you've got a busy schedule.
Any tips for staying on track?
Set realistic goals, create a writing schedule, and, stick to it as much as possible. Treat it like any other important task on your to-do list.
So make time for it, prioritize it. What about promotion? How do you get those blog posts in front of the right people?
Share your work on social media, engage with other bloggers, participate in online communities. You could even build an email list, keep your readers updated on new posts. It's all about getting your work out there, making those connections.
It's not just about writing, it's about building a community around your blog.
Exactly. And that sense of community, it's one of the most rewarding things about software development blogging.
It's amazing how something as simple as sharing your thoughts online can connect you with people all over the world who share your passion.
It really is. Now let's go a bit deeper, beyond the practicalities of blogging. Why do we write about code in the first place?
Yeah, is it just for, self-promotion, or is there something more to it?
One article described blogging as learning in public. It's about embracing that continuous learning process, sharing your journey, inviting feedback, collaboration, being open to, new ideas and perspectives.
So it's about vulnerability, transparency, a willingness to learn and grow alongside your readers.
Exactly. Sharing your successes, your struggles, your insights, your questions. And that process of learning in public can be incredibly rewarding for both the writer and the reader.
It's like turning that often solitary act of coding into a shared experience.
Beautifully said. And that sense of shared experience, it's really at the heart of what makes software development so special.
It's about more than just, lines of code. It's about creativity, collaboration, that passion for building something amazing together.
Absolutely. And that passion shines through in every line of code we write, every blog post we share, every connection we make in this incredible community.
This deep dive has been incredible. We've gone from the nitty-gritty details to the big picture, the future of software development, and I gotta say, I'm feeling incredibly inspired.
And that's what it's all about. Never losing that sense of wonder, that sense of possibility. The future of software engineering is in our hands, and it's up to us to shape it into something truly remarkable. So to all our fellow deep divers out there, keep learning, keep creating, keep pushing the boundaries.
We've talked about so much already, from like the building blocks of good code to building a whole career. But I gotta say, I'm really curious about the future. What's it gonna be like for software engineers in a world that just like never stops changing?
Yeah, it's the question everyone's asking, right? But, instead of being afraid of all these big changes, automation, AI, even like the whole citizen developer thing, I actually think they create some pretty amazing opportunities for us.
One article even called it like a shift from doing the work to designing the work, which sounds kind of high level, to be honest.
It is a bit. But the idea is instead of just writing code, we're the ones architecting these complex systems. We'll be using AI, automation, even the work of citizen developers to create things at a scale and speed we can't even fathom right now.
So almost like we're leveling up from coders to conductors of this whole tech orchestra.
It's a great analogy, but it means we need a whole new skill set and a mindset that's all about adapting. Lifelong learning, it's not just a nice to have anymore. It's essential for survival in this field.
Yeah, so many of these articles emphasize that point. A degree isn't enough anymore. The tech world just moves way too fast.
Right, we're talking constant learning, unlearning old stuff, relearning new approaches throughout our entire careers. One article said it perfectly, like, become a student of the game, not just a player.
Love that. So it's not just about, mastering today's tech. It's about understanding those underlying principles, the strategies, so we can adapt to whatever comes next.
Exactly. That kind of deep understanding plus a healthy dose of curiosity, that's going to be key for navigating the future. And it's not all about technical skills either. All these sources, they talked about soft skills being even more critical than ever.
Right. Communication, teamwork, problem solving. One even said soft skills are the new hard skills, which sounds a little backwards.
I know, right? But it makes sense. Technical skills can be learned, even automated to some extent. But it's our human skills, that ability to communicate, to collaborate, to think creatively and solve those really messy problems. That's what sets us apart.
So being a coding whiz isn't enough. You also need to be a great communicator, a team player, a problem solver. Basically, a leader.
Exactly. And that leads right into another big theme for the future, creativity and innovation. As those routine tasks get automated, we'll be freed up to tackle the truly complex, open-ended problems.
One article even argued that the best software engineers will be the ones who constantly ask, what if? It's not just about following instruction, it's about pushing boundaries.
That's where true innovation comes from. Challenging assumptions, experimenting, even embracing failure as part of the process. It's about having that spark of curiosity and daring to imagine new possibilities.
So we're not just builders anymore. We're dreamers, inventors, pioneers, forging the future of tech.
Now, that's a powerful image. And it's that spirit of exploration that will drive this field forward. This whole deep dive has been amazing. It's given us a glimpse into not just what software engineering is, but what it can be.
I totally agree. We've gone from the nuts and bolts of coding all the way to like ethical considerations, future trends. It's been a wild ride, but honestly, I'm feeling super inspired by all of it.
And that's the key, right? To never lose that sense of wonder, that sense of possibility. The future of software engineering is in our hands, and it's up to us to shake it into something truly remarkable. So, to all our fellow Nick divers out there, keep learning, keep creating, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Until next time, everyone, happy coding. 22 team.